Hello everyone, and welcome back to True Crime Mysteries. Today we have our January Crime of the Month. In our Crimes of the Month series, we cover updates from previous cases, notable crimes covered in the news, and just crime-related things that happened this month. Before we jump in, I'm just going to give you your friendly little reminder to give this video a like if you like the content, and subscribe for more if you haven't already because I make more content like this. But with that being said, let's get into it. Alright, so as normal, we are going to start with updates, and y'all, you know we're starting with another Murdaugh update. It has been 7 months since son Paul Murdaugh and wife Maggie Murdaugh were murdered at the hunting lodge in Islington. It was there that we heard this 911 call made by Alex Murdaugh.
Carlton, I have an Alex Murdaugh on the line, caller from 4147 Moselle Road. He's advising that his wife and child was shot.
Okay, and sir, give me the address again.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay. Okay, and are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it's your wife and your son?
My wife and my son.
Are they in a vehicle?
No, ma'am. They're on the ground out at my kennel.
The incident was confirmed as a double homicide, but South Carolina law enforcement, or SLED, have not made any significant announcements regarding the murders. It has now been released that Alex Murdaugh is the sole person of interest in this case, which was initially denied by his legal team but has now been acknowledged. We are now hearing that damning forensic evidence has directly linked Alex Murdaugh to the murders. It was announced that the evidence is substantial, but it has not been released exactly what that evidence is yet. I'm going to keep you posted, and if you want more information on Alex Murdaugh, I did a deep dive and I'm going to link that in the description box. Robert Durst dies in prison at 78. Back in December, we covered Robert Durst in one of our serial killer deep dives. In September 2021, we saw Durst be convicted of the murders of Susan Berman, and in October he was sentenced to life in prison. We know that he had contracted COVID-19 at the end of 2021, and it had complicated several previous medical conditions he had. He died of cardiac arrest on January 10, 2022, at the age of 78. Durst is known to have very creatively avoided the law for many years, and it would seem that even in death, there were a few more tricks up his sleeve. After his conviction, Durst's legal team had been quick to file for a retrial, which had been denied, so they appealed the conviction. Because he died before his appeal could be heard, his conviction may be thrown out entirely. Under California law, the states of court's appeal could dismiss the appeal, which would also dismiss the conviction. Lori Levinson, an LA law professor, said, "The whole world knows the jury found Durst guilty, but that's not what the legal records will show. He didn't finish his appeal." As we had discussed in our previous coverage, which, if you're not caught up yet, I'll also link that in the description, the criminal charges brought forth by New York in the murder of Kathleen Durst have been dropped. At the time they were filed, it had always been a risk that Durst's poor health would impact these charges from being seen in court. New York District Attorney Mimi Rocha said in a statement, "I know how upsetting this news must be for Kathleen Durst's family. We had hoped to allow them the opportunity to see Mr. Durst finally face charges for Kathleen's murder because we know that all families never stop wanting closure, justice, and accountability." She did say that although the charges were dropped, an investigation to finally close the case will continue. She said more information about the case would be made public, as well as that they would have every intention to get answers for Kathleen's family. Robert Durst's brother said in a statement, "Bob lived a sad and painful and tragic life. We hope his death brings some closure to those he hurt."
Did you kill Susan Berman?
No,
Do you know who did?
no, I do not.
Do you realize you have an absolute right not to testify?
I am aware of that.
Do you want to testify in your own behalf?
Yes.
I want to first ask you about some of your health problems. Are you hard of hearing?
I am hard of hearing.
You've heard Tommy, your little brother, testify here that he resented you to this day for pulling a trick on him in a revolving door. Do you remember that event?
I remember Tommy's testimony. I don't remember the incident. Tommy said, and this is when he was an adult, so I don't know how old we were then. I don't remember when he was talking about me ignoring him in the revolving door. It was not when he was little. He was a grown-up.
Los Gatos party mom Shannon O'Connor update. We have a little bit of an update on Shannon O'Connor, and I know you guys are dying to know what happened to her. Back in October, we discussed the 47-year-old mother of two who had been caught hosting these huge parties and numerous gatherings in her home over the pandemic. At these parties, she gave very young teens unlimited access to booze and would encourage these teens to engage in sexual activities. The victims, ranging in ages from 12 to 15, reported several encounters that were not consensual and that were also witnessed by O'Connor. It was also discovered that O'Connor had paid for these parties using a company credit card that she did not have the authorization to be used for personal expenses. She is alleged to have stolen over $120,000. O'Connor had moved from California and relocated to Idaho with her two children. When deputies arrived to arrest her, they were shocked to discover that there were dozens of teenagers in her home at the time. She was charged with 39 charges, including felony child endangerment, child molestation, sexual assault, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. So she is back in the news this month because her legal team have made several attempts to get O'Connor released on bail while she awaits her trial. Upon her arrest in October, bail had been denied as the judge was convinced that she was a possible flight risk and posed a threat to the 15 victims that had come forward. She had been set to enter a plea in December, but her lawyer had to back out of the case when the list of victims was submitted. He had a conflict of interest. This had delayed several of her court appearances while she found new legal representation. Since her arrest, the sale of their Los Gatos home has been finalized. The sale has given her and her husband $4.6 million in funds, and it can be argued that O'Connor could use those funds to flee the country. On January 18th, she was back in court again and asked for bail to be set, but again, it was a request that was denied by the judge, and she will remain in prison until sentenced. She faces upwards of 20 years in prison if convicted on all charges, and she is scheduled to enter a plea on March 4th, 2022, so even if she were to be released on bond, it would be kind of pointless. She would just go back to jail in March. Two new arrests in the 2007 disappearance of Andrew Gosden. 15 years ago, 14-year-old Andrew Gosden went missing from Balby and Doncaster after he skipped school. I covered his missing persons case 2 years ago, and there has been little news in recent years, but two men have been arrested recently in connection. And a 38-year-old man was charged with suspicion of kidnap and human trafficking. Both men were located in London upon their arrest. This case is still developing, and it hasn't officially been announced how these men are connected to Andrew, but upon their arrest, a number of electronic devices were seized, and it is believed that these devices have revealed a connection to the missing teen. Andrew was last seen getting off a train at King's Cross Station in London. It had been theorized that Andrew may have skipped school and gone to a concert in the city, but it was never confirmed. The morning he had disappeared, he had emptied his bank account of £200 and purchased a one-way ticket to London. Andrew's father, Kevin Gosden, who has worked diligently to keep Andrew's case in the media, he said in a statement, "I just couldn't sleep all night. We just don't know what to think about the latest development." Law enforcement are warning it could take months or up to a year to dig through all the digital evidence connected to these men, and it could still be a while before any more information will come available. Andrew would be 29 this year. Here are some age-progressed photos to show what he may look like today, and he also has a unique double ridge on the side of his right ear. Anyone with any information about Andrew are still being encouraged to come forward. Minnesota landlord murders father and sister after seeking eviction. It was December 26 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, when Abdullah goes to see his brother. The 47-year-old then makes a shocking confession. He had shot and killed both his father, 74-year-old Murdaugh Abdullah, and older sister, 55-year-old Crystal Abdullah. Had been having recent issues with his family. He owned a duplex where he lived, and Murdaugh and Crystal had been renting the other half. Several court orders revealed that Crystal had taken her brother to court, citing issues with the unit they were renting. The courts ordered to make several repairs to the home, including replacing a toilet, a broken water heater, and non-functional fire alarms. Crystal was allowed to withhold rent payments until the repairs were made. On December 20th, filed paperwork to begin the eviction process of his brother and sister, but it wasn't formally filed because he wanted to request that the court fees be waived, which was denied. It was likely after this interaction at court that set him off. According to the confession he made to his brother, he said that he went into their home unannounced and shot both of them in the back of the head while they were watching TV. When he had approached his brother, he had asked for help to dispose of the bodies and clean up the unit. His brother refused, and asked if he knew anyone who might be able to help him. His brother told him to just hold on and he would see. His brother called their other brother, who went over to the house that their father lived in. When he arrived, he found that the front door was unlocked and found the bodies of his father and sister in the living room. He then called 911, who confirmed that they had been deceased for a few days, and was arrested at his brother's home. He was charged with 2 felony counts of second-degree murder and is being held on a $1.5 million bond.
Christopher Johnson stands outside this Robbinsdale home as he remembers the moment he found his father and sister dead inside.
I had received a call from my younger brother saying that I should go over and check on my dad. He sounded a little disturbed, so I jumped in the car with a friend and came over here. When I got here, the door was ajar.
Johnson says at first he thought his sister and dad may have stepped outside to smoke.
When I approached the unit, I smelled an odor, and I pushed the door open a little bit more, and I seen my family in there deceased.
Accused of killing them is Murdaugh Abdullah. He's charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. According to a criminal complaint, Abdullah arrived at one of his brother's home in Brooklyn Park and told him he shot and killed his father and sister a few days ago inside their Robbinsdale apartment. Johnson says he was then contacted by that brother who asked him to investigate.
When I came here and seen them in here deceased, I wasn't strong. I had my moment. It was hurtful.
New Orleans man arrested after dismembered body was discovered on his property. This story is still developing, and it started on December 23, 2021, when Micah Dardar reported his ex-wife, 36-year-old Julia Dardar, missing. He had not seen Julia since November and was concerned about her safety. Micah knew that she had been struggling with addiction and was concerned something bad had happened when he stopped being able to get in contact with her. Though Micah and Julia were in the process of divorcing, the couple were still co-parenting, and they still maintained a certain level of respect for one another. Micah said that before he reported Julia missing, he saw that Julia's new boyfriend, 34-year-old Benjamin Beale, was driving her car around without any sign of Julia. She had moved in with Beale earlier in 2021 and was known to Micah as being Julia's dealer. Police went to Beale's home, which was the last known residence of Julia, and questioned him. Beale said that he and Julia had broken up and that she was in the process of moving out. Beale had also suggested to officers that Julia had likely taken her own life or had overdosed, which was why no one was able to get in contact with her. Officers obtained a search warrant and returned the next day to look around the property. There they noticed an extension cord going from Beale's house to a converted bus he had in his yard. They went onto the bus and saw the cord was powering a large freezer, and when they opened it, they discovered a dismembered body inside. Next to the freezer, they also found a power saw, goggles, plastic garbage bags, and a face shield. When they further investigated inside the home, they also discovered it contained a meth lab. Inside a safe, they found the wallet and ID for Julia Dardar. Authorities couldn't immediately identify the remains as Julia, but later that week they were able to confirm her identity. Benjamin Beale was arrested on January 11th and initially charged with obstruction of justice. His bail was set at $450,000, and he has had 5 more charges added on for manufacturing of illicit substances and illegal weapons found on the property. Benjamin Beale, who also goes by Kelly Kirkpatrick, did not have a criminal record prior to his arrest and has not yet been charged with Julia Dardar's murder. Micah Dardar blames Beale not only for Julia's murder, but blaming him for her addiction. In a Facebook post, he told Beale to burn in hell.
So you spent time at Beale's home with your wife?
Not very long, but yes. We had dinner there one night with the old lady, and we had gone there one time previously.
According to Micah, it was to buy his wife drugs from Beale. Did you ever see them do drugs together?
Yes.
How was that?
I actually didn't see, I saw her purchase drugs from him. I didn't see them use drugs together.
And where did she use the drugs?
I don't know.
Her addiction to meth was a tragic misfortune, and experts are reminding people that the substance is incredibly addictive and can cause people to lose everything around them. Julia is remembered as a loving mother, a talented mechanic, and a kind-hearted person. 13-year-old stabbed and killed his mother during a fight about video games. In Tucson, Arizona, officers were called to the scene of a home at around 9 p.m. on January 11th when an injured woman went to a neighbor's house suffering multiple stab wounds. 60-year-old Mary Ainu was rushed to the hospital, and it was revealed that her teenage son, Isaiah, had attacked her. Officers did a brief search of the area and found Isaiah not far from the home. He told officers that he and his mother had an argument about video games, so he went into the kitchen, sharpened a butcher's knife, and found his mother in the living room watching TV. He said he then grabbed a 5-pound exercise weight, struck her in the head, and stabbed her 8 to 9 times as she tried to escape. Mary died at hospital later that evening. Her wounds had been too significant. Isaiah was charged with first-degree murder and domestic violence and is being held at the Pima County Juvenile Detention Center, where he awaits trial. Arizona law enforcement are also seeking that Isaiah be tried as an adult due to the level of violence involved in the murder. Sex offender wanted in Utah who faked his own death turns up hospitalized in Scotland with COVID-19. According to his obituary, Nicholas Alivardian's life ended on February 29, 2020, after a long battle with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma at 32 years old. The obituary claimed that his death had been witnessed by his wife, his 2 children, and extended family members. They claimed that he had been cremated and his ashes were scattered at sea, per his wishes. His uncle had even hosted Nicholas's funeral, so it had been a shock when it was discovered in January 2022 his nephew was alive and in Scotland. Nicholas Alivardian, who had used several aliases including Nicholas Rossi, Nick Allen, Nicholas Brown, Arthur Brown, had checked himself into a hospital in Glasgow after contracting a severe case of COVID-19. He checked in under a fake name, Arthur Knight, and the hospital identified the discrepancy and alerted Interpol, who were able to identify him by his true identity and detained him on an international arrest warrant on January 12th.
He's gone to great lengths to hide his whereabouts, and he went to great lengths, I believe, to get out of the hospital in Scotland, so far as even trying to hire a private ambulance to be able to get away.
Nicholas was wanted in multiple states for sexual assault. One case had been a cold case from Utah way back in 2008. The other was another sexual assault case from 2018 in Ohio. He was also wanted by the FBI for defrauding his foster parents by taking out 22 credit cards under their names and racking up over $200,000 in charges. Alivardian had worked as an advocate to reform the Rhode Island's child welfare system. While he was being praised for his work in child welfare advocacy, behind closed doors he was regarded as a violent, manipulative partner. His second ex-wife was granted protection orders against Nicholas, citing extreme cruelty, with several other police incidences showing a consistent pattern of behavior with women. He had been required to register as a sex offender back in 2019, but had failed to comply with the court order. It was when he got a call from the FBI that he fled the country to avoid prosecution in Ohio and attempted to lead investigators and state legislatures in other states to believe that he was deceased. Federal and international agencies are working together to coordinate his extradition back to Utah, where he will be charged and held while he awaits trial.
We're just beginning to know some of the details about this man. And my guess is we'll be shocked when we learn more.
We're grateful that we are in a position to bring this person into justice.
Rhode Island State Representative Raymond Hall, who has served as a police officer for 34 years, reacted to Alivardian's arrest by stating, "I've come across a lot of dishonest people in my profession, but I've never come across someone who would fake his own death." Illinois judge barred from criminal cases after throwing out guilty teen sexual assault conviction. In a few previous Crimes of the Month, we have covered a few surprising rulings from judges who appear to be protecting young men who face sexual assault convictions. Back in November, we covered Christopher Belter, who had pleaded guilty to the sexual assault of 4 minors and had avoided prison when the judge sentenced him to 8 years of probation. Judge Matthew J. Murphy said that prison would be inappropriate for the young man. While there are still many who would like to have seen some sort of oversight in this case, we may see more consequences for judges who do not rule in manners appropriate for the severity of the cases. A judge in Illinois is facing such consequences, following outrage when he threw out the sexual assault conviction of 18-year-old Drew Clinton, citing the 5 months he spent in prison awaiting trial was punishment enough, despite the conviction requiring an at minimum 4-year prison sentence. The victim, a 16-year-old teen who had been at a party intoxicated and passed out, she woke to a pillow being pushed on her face and being attacked by Clinton. The judge essentially had blamed the victim for the attack, which is horrific enough on its own. The Adams County State's Attorney Office released a statement reminding the public that the focus and attention should remain on a 16-year-old girl enduring a trauma beyond what should be required of anyone and a system that traumatized her and victimized her again and again. She did nothing to warrant this attack, she is deserving of our support, and she is worthy of our respect. The judge in question, Judge Robert Adrian, will now only handle cases involving small claims, legal matters, and probate dockets, and other civil cases. In addition to the extremely lenient sentence regarding the same case, Judge Adrian had also thrown an attorney out of the court for liking a post on social media that had been critical of Adrian's ruling. The Quincy Area Network Against Domestic Abuse, which helps victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse, said that the judge's ruling sent a dangerous message. Hopefully other Chief Justices will follow the lead of Illinois and ensure that their judges are ruling in a matter that is suitable for the crime and is fair and consistent among all perpetrators. Well, that is it for this video. Thank you everyone so much who commented on topics they wanted to be covered this month. I can't always see comments. If I don't respond to your comment, feel free to email, tweet, or DM me through Instagram. Anyways, as always, please give this video a thumbs up if you like the content and subscribe for more if you haven't already. If you've done all that and want to support me in the channel, we have channel membership as well as Patreon to get early access, members only content, and more. We also have merch and other goodies in the description box, as well as links to all my socials. But until then, I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.